The alien city lay in ruins, smoke curling into the darkened sky like fingers of despair. Fires raged across shattered buildings, and the air was thick with the acrid smell of burning metal. Screams echoed from the streets, the desperate cries of a species pushed to the edge of extinction. From a high, shattered tower, the alien leaders huddled around a damaged communications array, sending a signal into the void, their voices trembling as they begged for help. Each pulse of the SOS carried fear, panic, and hope, all at once, a final plea to any who might hear and answer. For hours the signal repeated, over and over, as the enemy advanced, encircling the city like shadows ready to snuff out every living. Being far across the galaxy in a Terran listening station orbiting a distant star, the SOS blinked across monitors. The room was silent, tense as analysts studied the strange patterns in alien language. Commander Alex Riker, a veteran of countless human campaigns, leaned over the console, his brow furrowed. "They're trapped," he said quietly. "This isn't just a warning. They're asking for help. They're desperate. And they're running out of time." His voice carried weight, a mix of concern and recognition. The others in the room exchanged glances, some anxious, others skeptical. Human military protocol emphasized caution. Intervene and risk lives in a foreign war, or ignore the SOS and watch an entire species perish. The stakes were enormous, but so was the moral weight. Riker knew one thing: if humanity ignored this, the galaxy would remember their silence. Meanwhile, back on the alien planet, the enemy was relentless. Strange machines moved through the streets, weapons firing without mercy. Alien soldiers fell, their armor shattered, their defenses crumbling under the relentless assault. The leaders huddled in the tower, pressing their trembling hands against the console, hoping the signal would reach someone capable of turning the tide. "Please, someone, answer us," one whispered, voice breaking, trembling in their bodies was mirrored by the fear in their hearts, a fear that this would be the last message they ever sent. Outside, the sounds of destruction grew louder, a cacophony of chaos that threatened to swallow the city whole. The Terran analysts worked, frantically decoding the signal. Every fragment of information revealed the scale of the disaster. The aliens were not only fighting a superior enemy force, but were also trapped by environmental hazards, collapsing buildings, ruptured energy grids, and toxic clouds spreading through the streets. Riker studied the maps appearing on the screens, each one showing zones of devastation, areas of resistance, and points where the aliens might still survive. The images were haunting, yet they ignited something in him: a resolve, a determination to act. "Prepare the Marines," he commanded. "We're not letting them die, not while we can still reach them." The decision was made. Terran warships shifted from orbit, engines roaring to life, their massive forms cutting through the vacuum of space. Elite Marine squads prepared for deployment, donning armor, checking weapons, and reviewing plans. Each soldier understood the gravity of the mission: drop into a world on the brink of annihilation, face an unknown enemy, and save a species desperate for survival. The tension was palpable, every movement precise, every command crisp. Outside, the station's windows, the stars stretched endlessly, but among them blazed the faint light of a planet in turmoil, the source of the SOS that had shaken humanity's conscience. Back in the alien city, the leaders watched the sky anxiously. Though they could not see the approaching ships, the trembling in their hearts remained constant. Every explosion, every falling building heightened their fear, yet deep down, a flicker of hope persisted. The SOS had to work. Someone had to come. Their species' fate depended on it. And somewhere across the galaxy, the Terran Marines were en route, guided by the pulse of their distress and the unspoken promise that help was on the way. As the first Terran ships emerged from hyperspace, the alien city seemed smaller, fragile against the vastness of the battlefield. Smoke and fire billowed from every corner, but the faint glimmer of approaching warships sparked hope. The aliens' trembling hands gripped their consoles tighter, and their eyes widened as they sensed movement in the heavens. The SOS had been heard, and humanity was coming. The countdown to rescue had begun. The air was electric with anticipation, fear, and the weight of what was to come. Neither the aliens nor the humans knew the full extent of the danger they would face, yet the first step had been taken. The Marines would soon descend into chaos, and the fate of an entire species would hang in the balance. In that moment, the trembling of the alien leaders transformed from panic into cautious hope, the first true sign that survival might still be possible. The Terran High Command gathered in the command chamber, a vast room filled with holographic displays. Glowing maps of the alien world and the cold hum of advanced technology. Commander Alex Riker stood at the center, his eyes fixed on the rotating image of the burning alien cities. The distress signals still echoed in their minds, a haunting sequence of alien cries that no human could ignore. Around him, generals and tactical officers debated the mission with tense voices. "We don't even know the enemy's capabilities," one officer warned. "Sending Marines into that chaos could be a suicide mission." Others argued the moral imperative. An entire species was begging for help. The air was thick with tension, each argument highlighting the cost of action versus inaction. Riker's gaze shifted from the holographic city to the faces around him. Every flicker of doubt, every hesitation, reminded him of what the aliens were facing: death, fire, and despair. "They are trapped. They are pleading for help. We have the ability to save them," he said firmly. His words carried weight, cutting through the debate like a blade. "We don't just have weapons and ships. We have courage, strategy, and the will to intervene. That is what sets humanity apart. We are going." End of discussion. Murmurs of agreement spread through the room. The decision had been made. But the suspense hung heavy. No one could deny the danger that awaited them on the alien planet. Meanwhile, the selected Marines prepared for deployment. In the barracks, the squad checked their gear, calibrated weapons, and reviewed mission plans. Every armor panel was polished, every energy rifle loaded, and every helmet communication system tested. Lieutenant Mara Voss, a seasoned Marine known for her sharp instincts, paced slowly among her team. "Remember," she said, voice low but steady, "we're not just fighting for ourselves. Every move we make, every shot we take could save thousands of lives down there. Keep your focus, watch your team, and trust the signals. They're counting on us." The squad nodded, each soldier absorbing the weight of responsibility while the adrenaline of anticipation coursed through their veins in orbit above the alien planet. The Terran fleet formed a precise formation, engines glowing as they waited for final confirmation from the command center. Riker's voice echoed through the communication channels, calm and commanding. "All units, prepare for insertion. The signal is real. The aliens are alive, but time is running out. Move carefully, strike decisively, and remember survival of our allies is the priority." Across the fleet, lights blinked in acknowledgement, and the first shuttle doors sealed, ready to descend into the planet's turbulent atmosphere. The tension was almost unbearable, a mixture of fear, anticipation, and determination that set every heart pounding. Back on the alien planet, the survivors clung to the hope that someone, anyone, would come. Licked the edges of shattered streets, and strange enemy machines prowled through the debris. Their trembling had lessened slightly, replaced by a fragile sense of expectation. The SOS pulses had been continuous, a lifeline thrown across the void, and now, just perhaps, someone had answered. Eyes scanned the sky for movement. Hearts beat in nervous rhythm, and every sound of the approaching ships was met with both hope and disbelief. Could they really survive this nightmare? The Marine shuttles pierced the alien atmosphere, leaving trails of fire and light as they descended toward the embattled cities. From the bridge of the command ship, Riker monitored the progress, analyzing terrain scans, enemy positions, and potential hazards. "Landing zones are tight," he muttered. Studying the glowing maps, expect heavy resistance. "Remember, these aliens are terrified and unarmed. Our priority is their protection, not just engaging the enemy." Every crew member understood the stakes. This was no ordinary mission. It was a rescue operation under fire, a chance to save a species from total annihilation. Suspense hung, In every moment, every decision, carrying life or death consequences, as the shuttles prepared to touch down. The alien leaders watched from their hiding places. Flames reflected in their wide eyes, and the trembling returned, not from fear of the enemy this time, but from awe and uncertainty. Could the humans really be here to save them? The first lights of the descending ships flickered across the burning landscape, a promise of hope and help. Their SOS had not been ignored. Humanity had answered, and the first step toward survival and a battle that would decide the fate of the city was about to begin. The Terran shuttles cut through the thick, smoke-filled skies of the alien planet, engines roaring as they descended toward the burning cities below. Every panel of glass and armor reflected the devastation beneath them. Collapsed towers, streets littered with debris, and pockets of alien survivors huddled in fear. Lieutenant Mara Voss sat at the front, scanning the landscape through a reinforced viewport, her eyes sharp and calculating. The trembling cries of the aliens filtered through the communication channel, a haunting reminder of the mission's urgency. Every pulse of the SOS reminded her team that time was running out, and that hesitation could cost thousands of lives. The enemy forces had anticipated human intervention, and traps awaited them across the descent path. Energy turrets hidden behind. Rubble fired sporadically, forcing shuttles to swerve and dodge with precise coordination. The Marines gripped their harnesses, muscles tense as explosions rocked their vehicles. Sparks rained down from damaged panels, and alarms blared, but the squad maintained their focus, trusting both their training and each other. The alien signals on their instruments guided them toward the most concentrated zones of survivors, the trembling frequency acting almost like a compass through the chaos. As the shuttles neared the surface, Mara issued clear, concise commands. Red team, cover the left flank. Blue team, prepare for ground insertion. Keep your eyes open. Enemy units are likely camouflaged. Move fast, move smart, and protect the aliens. The soldiers nodded, adrenaline sharpening every sense. They'd trained for hostile landings before, but nothing could fully prepare them for the scale of devastation and the emotional weight of rescuing a terrified species. Below, fires erupted unpredictably, sending columns of smoke and sparks skyward, creating shifting shadows that hid enemy positions. Every second was a gamble, a deadly dance of precision and courage. From their concealed vantage points, the alien survivors watched the humans descend with disbelief. The trembling in their limbs was intense, part fear, part hope, and part wonder. At the strange machines and armored beings arriving from the sky, their language, once filled with despairing screams, now included low murmurs of encouragement and prayers to forces they barely understood. Could these humans truly save them? Would they survive the unknown threats that had already destroyed so much of their home? Their hearts raced with the uncertainty of survival. Every flicker of human lights across the smoke, a spark of fragile hope. The first shuttles touched down amid the chaos, sending plumes of dust and debris into the air. Energy bursts from enemy units sparked against the reinforced hulls, but the Marines disembarked with calculated efficiency, weapons raised and eyes scanning for threats. They moved like a single organism, each member aware of the other's position, their training and instincts harmonizing in the midst of pandemonium. Mara signaled forward, and the teams fanned out, covering streets and alleys, pushing deeper into the city while maintaining contact with the SOS coordinates. The trembling frequencies grew stronger, guiding them to clusters of survivors hidden in the shadows. The enemy forces reacted swiftly. Machines advanced from the ruins, firing in synchronized bursts, but the Terran Marines responded with controlled precision. Tactical formations, coordinated volleys, and well-timed maneuvers neutralized several threats, yet the enemy remained relentless. The battle was fierce, the sounds of gunfire, explosions, and alien cries mingling into a chaotic symphony. Still, the Marines pressed on, driven by both duty and the silent pleas embedded in the trembling SOS. Each rescued alien, each cleared street strengthened the sense of purpose and urgency. As they pushed further, the scale of devastation became clearer. Entire blocks were leveled, Energy grids smoldered, and pockets of survivors clung to life in the smallest crevices. The trembling SOS pulses guided the Marines like a lifeline, and their efforts began to merge with the alien instincts. Some aliens, emboldened by the humans' presence, began pointing out hidden enemy positions and dangerous traps. The partnership, fragile at first, started to form a combination of human strategy and alien instinct. Together, they moved toward the heart of the city, where the majority of survivors were trapped, and where the enemy's main force had entrenched itself. Every step toward the center intensified suspense. The Marines knew that the most dangerous resistance awaited them ahead, and that failure was not an option. The trembling signals, the distant cries, and the burning landscape painted a vivid picture of urgency and peril. Yet through it all, hope persisted, hope that the SOS had been heard, that humanity had arrived in time, and that these trapped aliens could still be saved. With every coordinated movement, every precise shot, and every careful advance, the Terran Marines proved that courage, skill, and determination could cut through chaos, and that even in the most desperate circumstances, rescue was possible. The heart of the alien city was a scene of devastation, unlike anything the Terran Marines had ever faced. Smoke rose from shattered buildings, fires burned through collapsed streets, and alien survivors clung to debris, trembling with fear and exhaustion. Lieutenant Mara Voss signaled her squad to move carefully, weapons raised, scanning for hidden enemy units. The SOS pulses guided them forward like faint beacons of hope cutting through the chaos. Every step deeper into the city heightened the tension. Every shadow could conceal danger, and every flicker of movement demanded immediate attention. The aliens themselves were a mixture of terror and astonishment. When they first saw the humans, descending from the sky in armored shuttles, their wide eyes reflected disbelief. Some froze in place, unsure whether these newcomers were saviors or another threat. The trembling that had dominated their movements since the enemy's assault became almost frantic and instinctive expression of both fear and hope. A small group of aliens hesitated near a crumbling plaza, hands raised defensively, while the Marines approached slowly, communicating through universal gestures of reassurance. Mara crouched slightly, speaking calmly through the translator device. "We are here to help. You are safe now. Follow us." The first moments of contact were tense. Any sudden move could trigger panic or provoke remaining enemy forces. The aliens' trembling decreased gradually as they began to understand that these humans were not aggressors. Slowly, the survivors started to step forward, some clutching their injured companions, others pointing toward hidden dangers and enemy traps. The SOS had not only summoned help, but had prepared the aliens for this moment of trust. Their instinctive fear began transforming into a fragile reliance on the Marines' guidance. But the danger was far from over. Enemy units, sensing the intrusion, launched coordinated attacks from the ruins. Mechanical constructs advanced through debris-strewn streets, firing bursts of energy that shattered concrete and sent sparks into the air. The Marines responded with swift precision, forming defensive lines and returning fire. Their movements synchronized and strategic. Explosions rocked the plaza, dust filled the air, and smoke mixed with the cries of both humans and aliens. Every decision, every step carried the weight of life or death. For the alien survivors depended entirely on the Marines' courage and skill. Amid the chaos, a young alien leader approached Mara, trembling yet determined. His violet eyes met hers, and for the first time, there was a flicker of trust. Through broken words and gestures, he conveyed the location of trapped civilians, pointing to collapsed buildings where the enemy had concentrated its assault. Mara nodded, signaling her squad to follow, and the first coordinated rescue began. Humans and aliens moved together, cautiously, aliens pointing out hazards, Marines providing cover, every action deliberate, every breath measured. The suspense was palpable. One wrong move could endanger dozens of lives as they cleared debris and lifted survivors from the rubble. The aliens began to respond more actively. Some joined in minor defensive actions, others guided the Marines. Two hidden passages in dangerous zones. The trembling that had defined their initial interactions transformed into a shared rhythm of movement and understanding. The city, though still burning and deadly, became a place where cooperation turned the tide of fear into a strategy of survival. Every rescued alien was a victory. Every cleared street a small triumph against overwhelming odds. Yet the enemy's main forces had not revealed themselves completely. From the shadows of ruined towers, more mechanical soldiers advanced, faster and stronger than before, their presence a looming threat over the rescue efforts. The Marines braced for the next wave, while the aliens huddled close, some gripping human armor in silent desperation. The suspense reached its peak. The rescue had begun. Trust was being formed, but the battle was far from over. The success of the mission and the survival of an entire species hinged on the next critical moments in the midst of smoke, fire, and tension. Mara glanced at the trembling but now hopeful aliens. They had seen death and chaos, yet here they were still alive, still trusting the humans. The SOS had been answered. First contact had been made, and the fragile alliance between Terran Marines and alien survivors had begun. But the looming enemy forces reminded everyone that survival required not just bravery, but vigilance, strategy, and unwavering determination. The city was a battlefield, the stakes immense, and the story of courage and trust was only just beginning. The alien city trembled under the renewed assault. Enemy machines, larger and more advanced than any seen before, surged from the shadows of destroyed towers, their weapons crackling with deadly energy. The Terran Marines, led by Lieutenant Mara Voss, formed defensive positions amid the chaos, shields raised and weapons trained on advancing units. Every explosion shook the ground, sending debris flying, yet the Marines moved with precision, coordinating their attacks and protecting the fragile clusters of alien survivors who had begun to follow them with cautious trust. The stakes had never been higher. Failure meant annihilation, and the tension in the air was almost suffocating. Mara's squad pushed forward through crumbling streets, the pulse of the SOS guiding them toward trapped civilians. Alien survivors, once paralyzed with fear, now assisted in small ways, pointing out ambushes, marking hazardous terrain, and even helping carry the injured. The trembling that had dominated their movements had turned into a form of cautious determination. Every alleyway cleared, every enemy neutralized, sent a ripple of hope through the survivors. Yet, the enemy was relentless. Reinforcements poured in from the edges of the city, swarming over the ruins, and the Marines found themselves in a battle that demanded every ounce of skill. Courage and ingenuity they possessed, explosions lit up the smoke-filled skies as energy weapons collided, sparks raining down on both humans and aliens. Mara shouted commands over the chaos, her voice cutting through the cacophony with authority and clarity. Red team, flank left. Blue team, cover the civilians. Keep moving, keep pushing, and do not let them break the line. The Marines executed every maneuver flawlessly, a perfect blend of training, instinct, and determination. Aliens followed as best they could, their small contributions amplified by the Marines' protection and guidance. Together, they formed a fragile but effective alliance, a mix of human precision and alien knowledge of their own city. Amid the chaos, a massive enemy unit broke through a barricade, targeting a group of trapped civilians. The Marines reacted, instantly converging from multiple directions, coordinated fire cutting down the threat with surgical efficiency. The aliens watching the battle were awestruck. The human skill and bravery far exceeded anything they had imagined. For the first time, hope outweighed fear. The trembling that had marked their every action now gave way to cautious optimism. The knowledge that survival was possible and that these humans were not just warriors, but saviors. The battle surged forward, streets becoming mazes of fire, smoke, and destruction. Every corner held a potential ambush. Every building could collapse under gunfire. Yet the Terran Marines adapted, using every tactic and strategy at their disposal. Air support from hovering drones illuminated enemy positions, while coordinated strikes demolished advancing units. Mara moved among her squad like a shadow, directing, guiding, and fighting alongside them. The suspense was relentless. Every second held life-or-death stakes. Every decision could tip the balance between survival and annihilation. As the enemy's main forces began to falter under the relentless human assault, the aliens gained courage. Small groups joined in defensive actions, using whatever tools and improvised weapons they could manage. Sparks of bravery ignited, and the trembling of the past transformed into active participation. Together, humans and aliens pushed back, reclaiming streets, clearing buildings, and rescuing the most vulnerable survivors. Each victory, though hard-won, reinforced the fragile trust between the species. A bond forged in fire, smoke, and shared desperation. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the tide of the battle began to turn. The enemy units, once overwhelming, were being systematically dismantled. Explosions echoed across the city, but now they heralded progress rather than despair. The Terran Marines, battle-scarred but unbroken, had established a stronghold near the central plaza. Aliens gathered within, their trembling replaced by relief, gratitude, and a cautious sense of safety. The counterattack had succeeded, but the city still bore deep scars, and the enemy, though weakened, had not been completely defeated. Mara surveyed the scene, her heart heavy with exhaustion but buoyed by hope. The SOS had been answered. Lives had been saved. Trust had been forged in the heat of battle. And though the war was not entirely over, the humans had proven that courage, strategy, and compassion could turn the tide, even against overwhelming odds. In the smoke-filled streets of the alien city, survivors and Marines alike shared a moment of fragile triumph, a victory that marked not just survival, but the beginning of a lasting bond between species. The alien city, though scarred and smoking, had begun to breathe again. Fires still burned here and there, but the streets were no longer filled with the frantic sounds of despair. Terran Marines, led by Lieutenant Mara Voss, moved systematically through the wreckage, securing zones and helping survivors to safe areas. The SOS signals that had guided them through the chaos now seemed almost triumphant, fading into a rhythm of hope as each rescued alien was led toward temporary shelters. The trembling in the aliens' bodies had lessened. Their eyes still reflected fear, but now mingled with relief and cautious gratitude. Humanity had arrived in time. Mara surveyed the central plaza, where groups of aliens huddled with Marines standing guard around them. Some children clung to the humans' armor. Some elders whispered thanks. And a few of the alien leaders approached Mara herself. Their violet eyes, once wide with terror, now shone with a mix of awe and recognition. They did not fully understand the human language, but gestures, tones, and the actions of the Marines conveyed everything necessary. The aliens realized that these newcomers were not invaders, not conquerors, but protectors. The trembling that had dominated their lives since the enemy's assault had transformed into trust and hope. Beyond the immediate rescue, the Terran teams coordinated medical aid, food, and temporary shelters. Energy shields were erected to ward off further attacks, and drones flew overhead to monitor the remaining threats. The Marines moved with disciplined efficiency, their actions precise, calculated, and always aware of the aliens' fragile state. Every gesture, every moment of care, reinforced the bond between species that had begun in desperation and fear. Mara knew that survival alone was not enough. They needed reassurance that humanity's protection was real, that the SOS had not been ignored, and that the aliens could rebuild with safety. The enemy forces, scattered and weakened, had begun. Retreating into the ruins, their mechanical units in disarray, Terran air support and ground squads continued to neutralize any remaining threats, ensuring that the aliens would not be immediately overrun again. Each cleared zone provided a sense of accomplishment, but also a stark reminder of the destruction that had occurred. Survivors walked among shattered streets, carrying what little remained of their homes, yet the presence of the humans gave them courage to rebuild. Even in despair, A spark of resilience had returned. Mara walked slowly among the alien survivors, observing their interactions with the Marines. Some had begun to help with small tasks clearing debris, assisting the injured, and even offering guidance on navigating the hazardous streets. The trembling that had marked their first days of captivity had vanished in the presence of the humans' protection. The SOS that had once been a desperate plea for help had become a symbol of hope, answered not by words but by action. Humanity had proven that courage, precision, and compassion could change the outcome of the most desperate situations. In the command chamber aboard the orbiting fleet, Commander Alex Riker monitored the progress with a mixture of relief and caution. The battle had been intense, the stakes unimaginably high, and yet the operation had succeeded beyond expectations. The aliens were alive, saved from imminent annihilation, and the bond between species had begun to take root. But Riker knew the work was not done rebuilding a world. Ensuring long-term protection and maintaining trust required continued vigilance. The SOS had been answered, but it was only the beginning of a fragile, hopeful alliance as the last of the wounded were evacuated to safe zones. The aliens gathered in small groups, watching the humans with reverence and gratitude, trembling. Hands now reached out in tentative gestures of friendship. Eyes once filled with fear, now filled with hope. The city, though battered and scarred, had survived. The Terran Marines had not only rescued lives, they had restored faith, forged alliances, and proven that courage and humanity could shine even in the darkest moments of war. The SOS, once a desperate cry, had brought salvation. And in that smoky, battered city, amidst the ruins and the lingering tension of battle, a new chapter began, a chapter where hope, trust, and cooperation could flourish across the stars.